Hello, and welcome back to 100 Horror Movies You've Got to Check Out. We have a special one for this week. This one even went on to inspire a song by a very popular artist. Who is it? Stay tuned and find out. This week we are going over the 1960 French horror film based on the novel of the same name, Eyes Without a Face. Starring Edith Schaub as Christine, Pierre Brasseur as Dr. Genezier, and Aldea Valley as Louise. And I'd like to apologize now if I mispronounced any of those names. Not being a French-speaking person, I'm sure I did a number on them. So as I mentioned, this is a French horror film, with the French title being Les Yeux Sans Visage. Again, not French, and I apologize. This film did get an American debut in 1962 under the title of The Horror Chamber of Dr. Faustus. And there's a couple of really interesting things that happened with that. But before we get into the interesting stuff that happened during the American release, we've got to go over some things that were happening behind the scenes in France at the time. At the time, modern horror films had not been attempted by French filmmakers. It wasn't until the producer of this film, Jules Birkin, decided to tap into the horror market by buying the rights to the novel Eyes Without a Face. However, there were some issues with censorship back then. They had to exclude a couple of things from the book for different censor groups. For example, to avoid issues with the European censors, they had to not include too much blood or gore in the film. To not upset English censors, they had to take out the scenes that dealt with animals being used in experiments. And for German censors, they had to get rid of the mad scientist aspect of the novel. And this led to an issue of finding out what the right tone of the movie would be. Being that the novel focuses a lot on Dr. Genezier, the writing team that had adapted novels into films such as Les Diaboliques, which we went over in this, and Alfred Hitchcock's Vertigo, decided to switch the focus from the doctor to his daughter Christine, which I think is a really interesting take on it, and makes me very curious to read the original novel to see just how different of a feeling I get, changing the focus from one character to the other. But going along with that idea of changing perspective or changing focus, that actually leads to the song inspired by this. If you haven't guessed already, the song is Eyes Without a Face by Billy Idol. Instead of the song focusing on the relationship between the father and the daughter, like the movie does, he recasts it as the relationship between the narrator and his significant other in a deteriorating relationship. This also became Billy Idol's first top 10 hit in the US. If you haven't heard it, go check it out. But now is probably a good time to tell you about the plot of Eyes Without a Face. This film revolves around a plastic surgeon who is determined to perform a full face transplant on his daughter, who is disfigured in a car crash. However, the way he goes about it probably does not line up with his Hippocratic oath. He does it by kidnapping women that look similar to his daughter, removing their face without consent, because I don't think anybody in their right mind would be like, hey, take my face, and trying to transplant it to his daughter, Christine. And of course, as if that wasn't terrifying enough of an idea, this technology or this medical procedure has not been perfected yet. So his daughter, Christine, serves as kind of a guinea pig for this procedure, and it is not always going according to plan. In a film like this, I feel like a lot of the tension or a lot of the emotion that you get from it is watching how everything plays out and how Christine is dealing with essentially being eyes without a face, and watching her deal with the waiting for the procedure to work and being isolated and not being able to tell anybody what's going on because of the methods in which she may or may not be getting better. So because of that, I don't want to break down scene for scene of this movie, and I don't want to give away too many plot points, but I will say that this is a movie I enjoyed and has definitely sparked me into wanting to know more about this story and see how the novel compares to the film. If you are looking for a horror film that hits you in the heartstrings, this may be it. I feel like this is the kind of movie I'd love to see an independent company try to do a remake of. My only question would be, would they stick to the original and focus more on the doctor, or would they tell it like the film and shift the focus to Christine? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. So don't forget to leave me a message and also hit those buttons, those likes and subscribes. Now with all that being said, it's time to get to the scratching. And here we have the scratching off of Eyes Without a Face. Oh, they went gruesome with the scratch off. Alright. I don't know if I was expecting that. Yeah, well, that's creepy. So that is the scratching off of Eyes Without a Face. Next week's movie is Peeping Tom, which I'm curious to see how they turn that into a horror film, but I have an idea. I want to take this time to thank everybody for taking time out of your day to watch this video. Make sure you hit those buttons down below, leave a comment. I love to hear from you. Big special, I love you, thank you to my Patreon subscribers, whose names are going to be popping up in just a minute. As soon as we get that Patreon number to 20 subscribers, we're going to be giving away this Everyone is Awesome Lego set. I'd really like to give this away during June for being Pride Month, but we need a few more subscribers. Check in the description below for the link to the Patreon page. Not only do you get extra behind-the-scenes info and updates, at the $5 tier, you get an extra movie review on Mondays for my Monday movie review. Until next week, I love you all, and I'll see you next Tuesday. Later days.